Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic, and I want to welcome you to my channel, Opinion Stated, where I give unfiltered, opinionated sports takes. Let's go. Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic. I want to welcome you back to my channel, Opinion Stated, and I promise I have, a phenomenal episode planned for you today. I'm not just saying phenomenal just to say phenomenal. This episode, if you've already seen the thumbnail, you know exactly what direction I'm headed into. Before we dive into the content, though, do me a huge favor. Like this video. Liking the video helps us cruise along Algorithm Avenue, helps us get into the presence of individuals such as yourself who are looking for this kind of content, and subscribe to the channel as well. Click that notification bell to be notified as to when my newest episodes are uploaded. So, this episode here, again, phenomenal. Today, while scouring the internet, or I normally do, or YouTube, just kind of looking at YouTube videos, I had this video suggested to me from a segment of First Take today. It is literally and legit, probably, one of the most, I want to say, I don't know, like mind-blowing segments that I've ever seen on First Take, just for how good it was content-wise, right? Based on the conversation, the content of the conversation. It was so good. And so I want to dissect this conversation. It's about 20 minutes that I clipped up to get into here. But again, I'm entitling today's episode, Sports Media and NBA Players Are at War. What's new? What's new, right? There's all this negativity being kicked around a lot about the NBA product, about today's modern players, their unwillingness to play. We hear a lot. We talk, about the load management. We hear a lot about how these players don't measure up to players of the past. We hear players complaining that all people do in the media is complain, whether that's in the indie media space or mainly the mainstream media space. How all it is complaints. Like, to Kevin Durant's point a few weeks ago after the All-Star break, he said, man, why don't we just do away with the whole weekend? Seems like everybody's so, like bent out of shape around this time, is so miserable. We may as well just give everybody a break. And this conversation that was had on First Take today between Stephen A. Smith, Gilbert Arenas, and also Brian Windhorst, was just so powerful, because as multifaceted as this conversation is, they dug really, really kind of, or broached the subject matter and dug a little bit deeper. And where they haven't dug deep, I'm going to dig deep. I want you all to hear exactly what I'm excited to share with you, if you didn't happen to catch it today yourself. And then I will come back and I will offer my commentary from there. Let's take a listen. So look, guys, after 8 failed attempts of trying to get this video up, YouTube's been flagging me for copyright. So I'm just going to have to do the commentary myself. I try to do my best. LeBron's comments were, Ant already said he doesn't want it. And I said he ain't trying to deal with that shit. And, Shannon Fry said it the other day. That too, it's unfortunate, but I don't know. Like, why do you want to be the face of a league when all the people that cover our game or talking about our game on a day-to-day basis are shitting on everybody? You have to have that responsibility. That's just weird. It's weird energy. Stephen A. chimes in after that with the following. That's some BS. I'm going to call it like I see it. It's some straight BS. I'm not saying everything that he said was BS, because I understand that there's an enormous amount of pressure that gets elevated, fellas, when it comes to being the face of the league. I understand that. But I don't appreciate what he said. I really, really don't. And listen, let's understand what the backdrop of all this is. This is fresh off of All-Star Weekend. An All-Star Weekend where LeBron James elected to show up for and not participate. Don't get me started with his 22 years in the league and how he ruined the slam dunk contest, because he's the first superstar that played above the rim that decided not to participate in the slam dunk contest. Don't get me started with him showing up at All-Star Weekend on a Sunday afternoon, notifying the NBA an hour beforehand that he wasn't going to play, so he didn't have time to sit up there and get a replacement for him. And then he showed up out there with street clothes on. Don't get me started with all that. There's an abundance of things that have been going on throughout the career of LeBron James in this league or whatever.
I like to remind LeBron James that first of all, there's a whole bunch of people that cover the league. They're former players. Oh yeah, they're former players. They're not just reporters. They're former players, former big time players, former Hall of Fame players. They talk about the league too, and it's reminiscent of what I said too about Kevin Durant when I talked about can anybody talk about y'all? Is everything negative? I mean, I want to say this too. There's a narrative that goes around these days, and Wendy, this is out of your lane right here. This is out of your lane. Where if you're a brother and you're talking about brothers, or you're just hating on brothers, it's like black on black crime. But if a brother busts your ass and you happen to be a brother that got your ass busted, then how is it? That you're praising the brother that gave it to you, and you're highlighting the brother that got it given to him? That's what you're doing, and people don't bring this kind of stuff up. There's so much stuff that you could point to when you look at LeBron James. You could turn to the decision, self-aggrandizement at his height. What happened there? He has a 75-minute show, the decision to announce and surprise the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers that I'm leaving you. He had to find it on national television with the rest of America. What did I say after that, Wendy? Wendy, you remember, Gilbert, what did I say after that? I talked about how you handle stuff matters because owners are going to come. And what do? They came with the collective bargaining negotiation. They stripped basketball related income by 7%, costing the league about $2 billion. Okay? They pointed that stuff out. And you had a Chris Paul trade that was going to Los Angeles to the Lakers. Dan Gilbert, as the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, rallied the owners to go against the trade so that Commissioner David Stern could nix it. Why? Because he was salty about how LeBron James handled it and how stars were getting out of control. What are we seeing over the last several years? No matter what, we sit up there and it doesn't matter. We can sit up there and say something smells like perfume. They'll accuse us of saying it's passing gas. No matter what we say about these players, it's always something for them to complain about. And I'm not saying that there aren't justifiable situations where you are a player and you should be able to clap back, but everything he talked about inside the NBA. He didn't say their names. We know who he alluded to. Charles Barkley is an all-time NBA great, top 75 player, Hall of Famer. You get at him. Kenny Smith, who celebrates the game more than Kenny Smith? Shaquille O'Neal's a four-time champion. The Diesel, the Big Aristotle, and whatever name he came up with, assisting in marketing and elevating the brand that ultimately helped you generate an 11 year, $77 billion deal. And by the way, LeBron James had a lot to do with helping the NBA brand grow as well. We're not taking it away from them. But to sit up and say, why would you want to be the face of the league when everybody's talking shit about you all the damn time? I'm sick and tired of them acting like everybody's talking shit about them all the damn time. I don't know if you know this, Gilbert. LeBron James is hating on him to say that he's the second greatest player in the history of the sport. I don't know if you knew that. I don't know if you knew that when you say great father, great husband, great philanthropist, great businessman, great actor, great director, all that stuff, etc. I don't know if you know that because you didn't say he's number one, he's the GOAT, that it's an insult to him and his crew. I don't know if you knew that, Gilbert. But this is the kind of stuff that we're dealing with. So it's just utterly ridiculous. I'm gonna let y'all chime in here because I got more to say. But it's just what he said that it really ticked me off, and because again, it's pointing the finger and it's negating to point out there are people here celebrating the game. Any way in which the game has been hurt has not been hurt by the media. And by the way, in today's generation, these dudes think the media is social media. They lump us all in with the same. There's people that don't cover the league, ain't never covered the league. They ain't never been in a locker room, they never been in a press box or anything. And but because they're on social media chirping, we get lumped in with them. We don't get into their personal business. Stay out of police bloggers, etc. Do your thing. Get out there and play. We cover the game. It's never enough. And he's not bringing that up. Again, I got more to say, but I'll stop there for now and I'll give y'all the floor.
Before Gilbert goes, I mean, before Gilbert takes over here, from Stephen A. I do want to say Stephen A. Raises a lot of very valid questions. I mean, interesting points. And throughout this video, there are again a number of very valid points from both sides being expressed. And so, but I just want to comment, on the heels of what he said about, you know, social media. Let's talk about the people who've never been in a locker room interviewing the players and who have never sat in a press box credentialed to do so. It's not to say that all of us on social media are that way, it kind of opens the door for another argument. As I personally have friends who are YouTubers, so to speak, who are credentialed journalists. You know what I mean? Shout out to Bruce from the Format Podcast and others. But it broaches that conversation that he Stephen A. mentioned Kevin Durant. You know, I remember during that tiff that they had back and forth, it was essentially even Draymond Green with this new media angle, that he came in when he started his podcast, and that approach coming from JJ Redick and some of the others, this new media angle to say that then you have individuals who are not qualified to speak on the sport, speaking on the sport. But what qualifies us to speak on the sport is that we watch the sport, that we indulge in the sport. And so we can say what we want about the sport. If it's not pleasing, if it's not appealing to us, then we're going to say that. In the ways that it's not appealing to us, we're going to say that. In the ways that it appeals to us, we're going to say that. It's a balance. It's a fine balance, I know, between being critical of the players and what they're doing and just completely and utterly shitting on them. So I understand what LeBron means. And I would never sit here and suggest that folks in the independent media space are not negative about the NBA also. It's a trending topic. It's a hot trending topic to talk about how the thing is failing, how the bottom's falling out of it. Everybody's racing to report after the fact, right? Or to give real time, it's a shitty league, it's a shitty game, these are shitty players analysis, which to some degree is accurate, but to some degree also it's inaccurate. And so the balance is finding that perfect medium between, hey man, you guys are doing things that are ruining the game, that are driving viewership down, but you're doing some great things too, or have done great things throughout your career, a la LeBron James, right? So I just wanted to say that really quickly. Let's get back into the sound.
Was he wrong? He was wrong. He was wrong about some things, Stephen A says. Gilbert says, I'm from the era where when you introduce a superstar or the stars of the league, it's all positive. Gilbert goes on to say, I'm 42, right? When you think about 92 Olympics, when you think about the 92 Olympics, you think about fine wine. It's like the 92. When you think about the 2024 Olympics, it's like mums. It makes your stomach hurt. That's that's how it's been pushed to us. So when you think about the Magic, the Jordan, the Hakeem, the Drexler, the Shaquille O'Neal, you push their greatness. You didn't talk about the negative parts of their career, their game, to tell them why they're not number one. So when you talk about is it wrong or you're doing something wrong with LeBron being number two, no. When you're telling him he's number two because of these flaws, you Stephen A. Smith trying to say, I'm telling him he's number two because he's not Michael Jordan. Gilbert said, that's fine. But he's not Michael Jordan. He's LeBron James. And so treat him like he's LeBron James. Stephen A. says, well, that's why he's number two all time. Gilbert says, well, you can't be the juror and the judge. You can't make the rules of Michael Jordan's 6 rings because when Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan, he didn't have 6 rings yet. That's what he finished with. But when he was idolized, he only had one or two. So what's happening is you're looking at the resume that you guys put out there, and you're saying, okay, you need 6 rings, right? You got to get the 6 rings. Okay, got to get the 6 rings. Now I need to make a decision to go here and get these rings because I can't get it here. So now they're sacrificing individual awards to get these rings. Then you say, well, you don't have the original awards. You can't get no scoring titles. He has 10. He has 10 scoring titles. You can't do that. So he gets penalized there because he doesn't have these accolades. Then what ends up happening is if you have a player that said, okay, well, let me get these scoring titles, you say, oh, you're selfish. Yeah, you're selfish. Yeah. And it's pointless stats, meaningless stats. So there's this game that's being played here that's being created. Then you're judging them off the creation that you created. That's the problem. The problem is that you're putting these rules out, and then when they're trying to get to it, you use this and say, got a little dirt, got a little dirt in your resume, got a little dirt in your game, and you can't be the Messiah. Yeah, yeah. And Steven says, okay, I got a lot to say, but I'm going to let Wendy go first.
Before Brian Windhorst goes, and again, Gilbert raises some very valid points. This is why I decided to not engage any farther in this idea of GOAT debating, because it is really weird to not only tear down a player by saying or belittle you by saying your greatness ain't great enough, your great accomplishments aren't good enough. The reality is, though, that if they don't measure up to the pinnacle of greatness, then they just don't measure up. But only comparison gets us into a space where it has become or became over the years so toxic in the media that then Gilbert's right. They begin to be held to the same standard. For some reason, it seems like the players don't want to be measured against a standard of greatness. They just want to be celebrated for being great in their own way while comparing themselves openly to the greatest by making statements. LeBron James, like, without right there, maybe the greatest of all time. Oh, did it? You see, when you make these kinds of statements, then we got to go back and look at those that we deem the greatest of all time, and then we just got to start comparing, and then that's where that it comes into place. But what, to Gilbert's point, shouldn't be happening is this goalpost moving. But because the GOAT debate is so subjective, it's this floating goalpost that seems to happen in all these arguments. Instead of it just being what it is. The greatest basketball player that I ever saw play the game is Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Hands down, period. It is not open for debate or discussion. I've watched LeBron James's career. I've watched Kobe Bryant's career. I've watched Tim Duncan. I've watched Larry Bird. I've watched Magic Johnson. The greatest basketball player that I ever saw lace him up was that dude. And his accolades and accomplishments are in a league of their own. Separation, if we get into this space of comparison, will then have us arguing and doing that same thing that I just talked about, which is the belittling of one to try to prop up another one, instead of just accepting that if I say Jordan is my GOAT, why you got to fight me over it? It's like if you said you're a Christian and I'm a Muslim because my family was raised, or practiced Islam when I was growing up. Why is that offensive, so offensive to you that you got to beat me over the head to try to convert me to Christianity? This is the same thing that's happening with this GOAT debating. It's sacrilegious to compare the debates of basketball or sports to religion, where you be the judge and get all judgy yourself. But that's a very valid analogy there. Let's get back into Brian Windhorst.
When the horse chimes in, I'm not going to be fun here because I have to parse this. So, LeBron, he brought this up talking about Ant Edwards. Ant does want to be the face of the league. That's why he's got Sprite commercials, Adidas commercials, and is frustrated that he keeps getting fined for saying curse words. He's frustrated that he keeps getting called texts on. And by the way, that's the problem he's got to address. He's not going to be suspended because he got ejected from this game. He's got 16 texts. Stephen A says he didn't deserve that second tech. Brian Windhorst said, yep, that's true, but that was number 16. So that's another topic for another day. But he, LeBron's cherry picking a little bit because Ant was complaining about that. But what LeBron's talking about, and I know what he's talking about because he's referred to what Channing Frye said. Channing Frye said it's hard for modern players to deal with nostalgia, which is exactly what you two are talking about. That's what LeBron is talking about. I think nostalgia is incredibly important to prop up the game. When I leave here today, the Uber driver will ask me about LeBron versus Jordan. The people at the airport will ask me about LeBron versus Jordan when I'm in Abu Dhabi, when I'm in Shanghai, when I'm in Manila. People want to talk about that. But I do agree with LeBron on this. We are a little out of balance. The greatness of the modern game is not celebrated as much as it should. I am not arguing that we should not compare to all the other eras. It's part of what makes this sport enriching. But we are out of balance. The complaints about the night to night and style of play are out of balance, and that includes our friends at TNT. In my opinion, they're out of balance. They should celebrate more. If the NBA asked me to come up with a marketing plan, which they would never do, I would say the NBA's plan, the NBA's logo should be greatness every night because it is. It's never been better. Gil and I were just talking before the show. I love watching Gil as a player, one of my favorite players of all time. You go back and look, 2005, 6, 7, and compare it to now, this game's way higher level being played. I don't know if you agree with me. I've heard you in your past. Sometimes you don't agree with me. Stephen A says timeout.
Timeout before Stephen A takes a timeout and digs into Brian Windhorst is ASS. Yo, yo, yo. Again, sure. The basketball players are great these days, man. And again, they need to be celebrated for what they do. But folks being critical and talking about, what they do ain't the end of the world. They're not. It's not the end of the world. It's when people start to talk about the softness of players today in comparison. You know what I mean? Like that's what they mean. It's this not having tough skin, and it's this assumption this assumption that prevails that somehow this generation, better skilled, better athletes, all this stuff, better players. And then we're watching people low manage, not play and cry all the time. It's like, bro, you just crying. The assumption is that these players back in the day weren't talked about in the media. They weren't dragged around. They weren't beat up. There wasn't negativity being spewed about them in the media. Yes, it was. It just was. There just was no existence of social media. But the radio airwaves, the newspapers, magazines, these dudes are getting dragged for being overweight, for not showing up in shape. You know what I mean? For the things they did off their exploits off court, etc. It's the same. It's just more magnified today. Well, let's let Stephen A. have at Brian Windhorst.
Stephen A says, time out. I've had enough of that. I'm not letting you get away with it. I'm not letting you get away with it. Neither one of y'all, okay? Let me tell you why. Effort matters. I'm certainly not trying to imply that a LeBron James or most players who go out on the court don't give effort. In between those lines, there's a lot to celebrate. I'm saying the sullying of the product. When are you going to take accountability for doing that to your own product? When I brought up the All Star game, that doesn't play a role in you sullying your own product. When we used to lament low management, that didn't play a role in sullying their own product. And the reason why, man, this is the beauty that I love about this industry. I love the fact I'm not one of those cats that don't want former players on. I want the former player. I want the present players. I want you all on because guess what? Those players are the ones telling us. You and I talked about this just yesterday. It's the Hall of Famers. It's the champions. Yo, man, you held us to this standard. Well, what you doing here? I don't give a damn how much the game has changed. In the end, between those lines, when it comes down to it, it comes down to it. You got to handle that. This is the criteria. The criteria didn't change. They're trying to get you to change it. Now, what you gonna do for that fan that you talked about? When the fan's in the car with you and he says, "All right," and he asks you about LeBron compared to MJ. By the way, LeBron James, you ain't the only damn person they ask about when comparisons. Don't they ask about Isaiah? Don't they ask about Magic? Don't they ask about Steph Curry and whether or not he's the greatest point guard of the game? Don't they ask about Russell Westbrook when he was averaging a triple double, when he was winning the league MVPs? Haven't they looked at Kevin Durant and talked about his greatness? They did all of that with everybody. You ain't the only person they've done it to. And what do you have? You have players out here making generational wealth. We've seen this happen, and don't try to deny this. We've seen cats. Where does load management emanate from? People get hurt all the time. They don't play. Come on, that stuff happens. But you saw guys signing for 9 figures and saying, I don't want to jeopardize my future earnings. They ain't earned, but they just got. They were making those decisions. And when the public points it out, why did the public point it out? Because half the time you didn't know when they were going to play and when they were not going to play. You found out after you showed up to the arena. Oh, they're not playing tonight. Really? That's what I paid for. So all of these things play a role. And so when you're talking about these players and how they are critiqued, and you're talking about nostalgia and what have you, you lean on the greats who elevated the game to compare to the future because the standard was established. If you're gonna, you've been marveling about Gilbert Arenas and Agent Zero is that dude. We know this, okay? But guess what? If somebody's got a game that's similar to yours that reminds them of you, inevitably it's going to draw comparisons. How's that hating? That's celebrating. But not only do they not take it that way, now this modern era is all about, oh, you disrespecting brothers. Gilbert says the face of the league used to be something that players wanted to be, right? Because it was an honor, because he got cheers and it was more money, Stephen A says. And Gil says it was like the Pope. When there was a new Pope, everybody gathers around to see if it's going to be, and you cheer. Today, you're not cheering that person. That person is sitting in a glass house while everyone is actually has rocks. And Stephen A says, why is that? And Stephen A says, tell the why. And Gilbert says, because the standard of this rare Bugatti by the name of Michael Jordan, this pristine, elegant being, sits there. No one's going to touch it. Since no one's going to touch it, there's no point in arguing about who's the next one, right? So because this was pristine and created out of happiness, out of joy, when you think about Michael Jordan, you smile. Like, yes, there's MJ. And Stephen A says Magic, and Gil says, yeah, Magic and Bird. Now, Gil goes on to say, how about LeBron? How about Kevin Durant? How about Tatum? There's no smiling. Well, what the first thing is? Oh, he went to the finals 10 times and he lost six. And Kevin Durant, he left it. All you think about is the negativity on these three goats. But we don't even. And Stephen A chimes in. Is that all we're saying? And Gil says, well, the average person that doesn't study the game, when you talk about a LeBron James, they're going to say, well, he lost the final 6 times. When you talk about Kevin Durant, well, he went to the team that beat him in the playoffs. When you think about Tatum, well, it's boring, right? I can't give you nothing bad about Michael Jordan, nothing bad about Magic, nothing bad about Bird. You didn't push that towards us. I don't anything. To this day, I can't tell you anything wrong about those guys. Stephen A says, well, let me help you out. When Michael Jordan was playing, okay, you had people follow him around trying to get into his business about gambling habits. You had people talking about what an abrasive teammate he was. This is while he was playing, not just the last dance. This stuff was coming out. Do I have to get into what they said about Isaiah Thomas? Do I have to get into all that stuff? And Windhorst says that Michael lost and had some egg on his face when he lost to Detroit Pistons. And Gil says, how do you know he played in the 80s? And Stephen A's like, yeah, there you go. There you go. I thought he saw it in the 90s, Gil says. How you guys say it. Stephen A says, okay, you say how you guys. Well, let's say something else. Magic Johnson, when they lost in the finals of Boston, he was in the shower crying because he had 3 consecutive turnovers. Dennis Johnson stripping him and stuff like that. He had to live with that while it was happening. Gil says, what year was this? Stephen A says it was in the 80s. He says, what I'm trying to say is, y'all making my point. The advent of social media has brought voices into the equation that have nothing to do with media. But these players don't have the decency to separate that from the media that's actually watching and covering the game. And then will use it as an excuse to go back and act like they have been victimized instead of listening to the game being celebrated. Tell me something negative that's been said about Steph Curry. Gil says, Stephen A says, take your time, I'll wait. Gilbert says nothing. And Brian Windhorst wins in and says, this is a point of contention amongst other players.
So I'm going to stop right there because I just want to jump in and say, to the point that there is no celebration of these, no happiness, being generated when you mention the name LeBron James. There's no feeling of the old sensation that fans would have when they heard the names of those players. I think that that's categorically false. There are some people who light up at the name of LeBron James, fans, present day. Is it on that level of Jordan, Bird, Magic? Probably not. Or maybe it is. But again, the problem comes in the comparison of it. You know what I mean? And then to just think and assume that because we're living in the moment, that the only players that are being talked negative about, and the only players that have been talked negative about, and the most polarizing of those players exist in the present era. And it's not true. It's not true. Players have been getting dragged forever. For as long as I've been watching the game, man, players have been getting dragged in the media, criticized in the media, celebrated in the media. Players are these days, likewise, have gotten celebrated in the media. The thing that I feel like that's missing is the understanding that, man, when you deserve to be celebrated, you'll be celebrated. But when you get out of line, you get whacked. So for as much as you love to be celebrated, when you step out of bounds or you get out of line, man, you need to be corrected, and some correction is going to come. And so just because a person is saying, fan or media figure is saying, bro, this right here ain't cool, I don't like it, we don't need to be handed your ass to kiss or to be told that we need to sit the fuck down somewhere and shut the fuck up because we don't know what we're talking about, or because we haven't earned the right to speak, or nor should we be told to just accept it because it's what the players are doing these days, load management, etc. It's like, come on, bro, you can't have it always. Fix yourselves. Fix yourselves. Back to the audio.
Stephen A remarks, fine. And Gil says the person that's chasing Magic Johnson, he gets to chase Magic Johnson without anybody throwing rocks. Stephen A says, but respond to what he just said, which is a point of contention of other players. But guess what? Then the media, who's fortunate enough to talk to the players, that gets this intel from the players and then puts it out there for the masses, like the players are asking us to. They get blamed by the same players for putting negativity out when they're the ones who did it. And Brian Windhorst chimes in, and that's the issue. Sitting in between you guys, here's my problem. You're both right. That's the problem. You're both right. Because, see, the Jordan thing does make it impossible for Kevin Durant to exist in a world that is going to be fair to him. And their viewpoint is also completely unbalanced. You're both right. And that is why we are in the situation that we're in today. Stephen A. chimes in and says, but, well, you're saying that it's imbalanced, but you're acknowledging that players play a pivotal role to the imbalance. And what I'm getting on both of y'all about is not pointing to them and crediting them with contributing to the very thing that they're complaining about. And Brian Windhorst says, well, part of the reason why LeBron's a billionaire is because people in Manila love to compare him to Michael Jordan. And Gilbert says, well, imagine taking 100 shots and you made 100. Stephen A says, nobody's going to do that. Nobody. It's impossible. Gil says, Michael Jordan. What he said, that's what I'm saying is that it's Michael Jordan's legacy is considered perfect. I have no chance. I have no chance of being perfect. I missed one shot. Oh, that was Gilbert's take there. The the panel weighed in summation. Stephen A says, point the finger where it belongs. Stop taking a weak approach out. You understand? Passive aggressively pointing a finger at others. And you know, when you play a role and have a level of culpability in what you're depicting has transpired, that's on LeBron James. He's not innocent in all this. Gilbert Arenas chimes in. The worst thing to be called is the next Michael Jordan. It's a career ruiner. Brian Windhorst finishes up by saying, LeBron James has given us 22 years of imperfect greatness. The greatness is what we should be happy about. The imperfection is what we should also talk about. Let's do it together. And let's not overdo one or the other.
Let's do it together and not allow one to overrule the other, right? Not allow one to be louder than the other. Not allow one to drown out the other. It's a balance, man. You know? So again, you can't be like you're in a public, you're in a public forum playing as an athlete. Athletes in every sport are criticized, not by the media figures solely on TV, the way that it's being done for the NBA. I will admit, not to the level that the NBA players and how they move and what they're doing and what the level the game has progressed to are being criticized, but it comes with the territory. I want to push back for a second on Gilbert's point before saying the Michael Jordan comparison is death to your career. I agree with that. Nobody should be compared to Mike. This glass house idea, where he's put on high as this Bugatti that is Michael Jordan, and nobody can compare to him just because of the lore, just because of the 6 for 6, you know what I mean? 6 finals appearances, 6 finals victories, 6 finals MVPs. That's not all of Michael Jordan's story. That's not the only thing that makes him great. That's not the reason that he's celebrated. I created a video for this channel in one episode that was entitled Michael Jordan Forever Immortal. Michael Jordan Forever Immortal. And in that video, I explained why The lore of Jordan is so vast because it started in his college career and extended into his professional career. And how he walked into this league averaging 28 points a game, unheard of for a rookie player. How he willed his team through the losses, or willed himself through the losses, to continue to get better and better and better, and his team to get better and better and better in the 80s. We watched him take his lumps. We watched him lose. But that's for that video. If you want to tap into that, you totally can. The information is there. So this idea that somehow, oh, because you guys just all only want to compare everybody to Jordan, or only want to talk up Jordan, and nobody else can compare, and this is why you shit on the players from today. It's not. It's that when the players start to put themselves on the levels of the Jordans, when they ain't even really fit to be on the level of the Kobe. But that's a whole nother topic of discussion. That's when the visceral comes in. That's what's going to make somebody dive in my comments and tell me that I'm hating on today's modern players, or I'm hating on LeBron, or I'm hating on Kobe, or I'm hating on this person who's their GOAT, etc., etc. It's not true, bro. Players been getting dragged, like I said, forever, bro. They've been getting dragged around forever, forever. And so when we lose sight of what, to Stephen A's point, that what is happening in the here and now is a lot of actual bad behavior from some of the players in the league, the superstar players in the league, those that make people go and buy tickets to come to see games. Shout out to the Phoenix Suns really quickly as an aside. One of my companies is being honored by the Suns tonight at halftime, and I'm so excited. I'm about to leave out of the house right now, like, and then head to Footprint Center for this game and to participate in the halftime, celebration, Black Excellence Night in Phoenix. Shout out to Phoenix. If I brought them up to say, if I get to this arena and I find out that Kevin Durant or Devin Booker all of a sudden is not playing, it's going to take a little wind out of my sail. They're playing the Pelicans tonight. Come to find out, Zion won't be playing. It's like that takes a little wind out of my sails. And that kind of ruins the experience for me. Puts a bad taste in my mouth. Makes me feel like maybe I shouldn't go out and support. You can't tell the fans that they're wrong, or media members that they're wrong for holding players accountable to actually playing. If a player's hurt, god damn it, they're hurt, bro. We get it. But that ain't been the 100%, like case as to why players haven't played over the years. And it's become so habitual that it's sullied the product, to Stephen A's point. There's some culpability on both sides here. Should the media, they brought up, inside the NBA, the inside the NBA crew, yeah, they've gotten a little negative. They got a lot negative. Keep it real. You know what I mean? Dumping constantly on the NBA. It's kind of their shtick. I've gotten used to it. That doesn't mean that I agree with them on everything that they say. Most of it is it's just like comic relief, And the things that I can agree with them on, though, I do agree. But I don't agree with all of their takes. I don't agree with their habitual negativity in the spaces where I feel like they're just being overly critical. I can dissect that for myself. But I know that that's also hurting, people tuning in. I do understand that, telling me that, man, this sucks. Oh, this game stinks. Oh, these two teams suck. Oh, why are we even having this game tonight? That does do a little something to me as a fan, tuning into the game as a basketball fan. I'm just tuning in to watch the game that's being televised by one of these broadcast partners. I don't want to be told that both teams suck. I just had to talk myself into creating some space and carving that out for today to actually take a look at the game. So there's culpability on both sides. On both sides. But I would say for the players, man, suck it up. Suck it up, bro. Suck it up. You're going to be talked about. The people in the crowd cheering, rooting against you, saying some crazy stuff. Did you just start playing basketball? Did you just start playing basketball? This has been happening forever. And for as long as all of you have been able to lace them up and get out there and play on the court, why are you acting like negativity or scrutiny or somebody criticizing you is new. Suck it up, bro. People going to talk. I'd say be happy that people are talking about you. One of these days, they may no longer be talking about you. So that's been the basis of this particular episode, man. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to get my ass out of here and head to this Suns game. As I said, man, super excited. Got some great information for you guys, or great episodes coming up for you as well, planned out. Like this video if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to the channel. We are on our road to our first 500 subscribers. We're so close. We're so close. This has been a great journey with you all so far through, or since last May through, the latter part of last year and into 2025 so far, man. Look forward to taking this journey with you guys beyond. I will catch you in the next episode. Until then, take care of yourselves. Blessings.
An incredible weekly experience in Phoenix, Arizona, known as Poetic Soul. We bring the community together and have been for almost 9 years. We welcome, you may have seen him on Netflix, Rhythm and Flow. Most recently, make some noise for J-Rock. Next up, proud father of 3, incredible MC, give it up for Kid Friendly. And of course, we got the baby girl for balance, make some noise for Rheology. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for Vibes with Jerry.